Welcome to the Wtf Show podcast from Bangkok, Thailand. Presented by Vimol Kogar. Tune in to get your dose of weekly verbal Red Bull.
Welcome one and all to the WTF Show this week. We have Sahib Anandsongvit, startup founder, Seekster. Welcome, Sahib, to the show.
Thank you, Vimol. It's a pleasure being here.
Tell me a little bit about your past. Where did you learn and how have you grown?
Okay, great. So I am born and brought up here in Bangkok itself. I studied in international school, went to Trail International till grade 6. I then got the opportunity to go to a boarding school in India, St. George's in Missouri, for 7 years of my life. So I graduated there. So I was sent since I was 10 years old. I then came back. I graduated from Assumption University, ABAC, and eventually got into business, after which I graduated.
Okay, so what was your first venture or your first job?
I guess I had the opportunity of working with the family since I was during my college days. So, because we are in the tailoring industry, I had the opportunity to come back to the shop after, college days and actually go out there, travel a bit with my brother and make some sales, meet few people. But my real first job was when I joined Deloitte as a accountant, because I graduated in finance and accounting. I did double majors. I got my first job in Deloitte. I was there for about a year and a half. And then I eventually came back to the tailor shop, worked with my family for a bit, until then I got the opportunity to run our first boutique hotel, which we opened back in 2014.
Okay, you've progressed a lot, Sahib, since 2014. So, Sahib, to explain to our listeners out there, is the founder of a huge startup in Thailand, Seekster. Do you want to explain Seekster to us, Sahib?
Sure. So, I got the opportunity again based on a real life problem. And this is when I was running the hotel. Also, when I was actually, just on an everyday basis, I understood that there were huge problems matching services, I'd say service providers to consumers, right? You would walk down the streets of Bangkok and you will see there's a billboard or a signboard on the poles, trees, walls that says, technician with their phone numbers or maids and their phone numbers. And on the other side, you as a consumer or as a business are on constant need or search of these service providers as well. The question is, how much would you trust, or how much would you actually go ahead and contract these service providers out there, right? And I guess when this happened to me, when I was as part of my first venture that I got the opportunity to run the boutique hotel, I guess it was, how do I actually find reliable providers when I needed them? Because I was often in a position where I had to fix an aircon, or there was a customer coming to check in, and eventually I had to hire a maid for 2 extra price, a technician for 2 extra price. So at that point of time, I had the idea, because I was an Airbnb host, and I said, this is a fantastic platform. The opportunity of giving people transform their ideal spaces and make money out of it. At that point of time, I realized that this is something that, we could definitely accelerate in Thailand or perhaps Southeast Asia, changing and transforming the gig economy. So to get into it, what is Seekster? I then co-founded this company, which is Thailand's largest service commerce platform, with a simple goal to digitize and transform the blue-collar service industries. Simply put, it is a Grab and Uber to call your reliable maids and technicians when people like you and I are, lazy to clean your house, or in a position where you need a technician to fix your aircon, to get a big cleaning done, a business that needs a maid on a daily or a weekly basis. Today, we provide more than 18 services in more than 4 cities in Thailand.
Okay, so you've grown the business from scratch. It is an online business. I guess it's an app on iOS and Android.
Absolutely.
And and you've co-founded this business. The beginnings, I'm presuming, were tough. Explain to us the challenges at the start of starting this business.
Surely, I believe sometimes the biggest challenge is believing in yourself, and not just you believing yourself, but getting your family and peers around you to believe in yourself. So at that point of time, coming from a family, an SME family where we've been running the family business for almost 30 years, the question always arises why you want to go do something of your own. Right? Why not just expand your family business? And I guess this was the first question, that I asked myself. Why? Why are you doing this? I usually always, start off anything I do, and even when I wake up, with this question, why? Right? And I guess the first challenge was us believing in it. And at that point of time, it's a very simple idea if you think about it, right? It's been there forever. It's not it's not something that you're transforming electric cars or bringing in robotic or AI. It's a very unsexy business, to be honest. But I guess this is what the biggest challenge was, to kind of overcome the fear of you going out there into the world and starting your first venture. And I guess because I came from a very SME perspective, I only got the opportunity to be part of the corporate for a year and a half, and then my family business. I was in my comfort zone, right? And then when I go out there into a tech venture, I've always read about it. I've always dreamt about it. I always wanted to build something large, but the question was I didn't have the expertise. So the first challenge for me was finding the right people to actually get into this venture and build this throughout.
So that, I presume, would be finding software developers, finding a team where you draw your business plan, you then outsource some of the work, and then that huge task to find all the people you want to get on the platform. Just like when Uber started, they paid drivers to come on the platform. So you're starting out from scratch. You have no maids, you have no electricians, you have no plumbers, you have no air conditioning technicians, and you're starting from scratch, and you're telling to them, come on my platform and we will give you gig jobs. We will give you jobs consistently and we will pay you fairly. What's the challenge?
Absolutely. I guess there's one word to it: trust, right? Because at that particular point of time, yes, I guess I was quite lucky, I would say. Within 6 months, I managed to find my CTO and my CMO. So, my other two co-founders who who bought the idea of the pitch of me telling them that I want to transform the service industry in Southeast Asia. But let's start with Thailand. Let's start with Bangkok, right? Well, I guess absolutely just like you presented and drew out the whole scenario. I guess back then I launched Seekster just the way Airbnb launched. So what I did, very simply put, I went to research what the West offers, or what America offers, what they have similar platforms like this. At that particular point of time, there was a business like this that had a template that they were selling on Google based on the same website they run. It was called Thumbtack. They offered 300 services back then, and today it's probably even more. But I simply said, hey, why not just buy their template for $2,000? I changed the name to Seekster.co. I just put it out there. I put out the name, put out the website. I spammed every Facebook group. I went on to radio shows. I took posters, went to post it up in toilets of different bars and restaurants. And all I did was getting the name out there for any expat or Thais that wanted to look for services. Now, when the first order came in, I remember this very particular day as well, October 31st, 2015. The request was for a makeup artist. At that particular time, I hired an intern to just scrape data from Google. We had a list of photographers, makeup artists, and different other services, 42 services I had live. But then that's when when I got this order, we were really excited. And it was Halloween's Day. So I called up at least 21 makeup artists until the 22nd accepted the job. The funnier part was the experience when I got my first order for house cleaning. I called up at least 35 maids and none of them accepted. Why? Because why would they trust you when you had no brand name, you had no value proposition, you're just a platform that just opened up, right? And then at that point in time, I had to take my maid from home to go and actually deliver the services sitting outside the customer's house. But coming back to the challenge, and what we realized was we had to create trust. And at that point in time, again, we were lucky that Grab and Uber just came into the industry a year before. So the biggest advantage was just telling, hey, we went to providers, we said, you focus on providing your quality services. Let us do the marketing. We are just like Grab, but for maids and technicians. We did the same for customers. You're already transacting and ordering Grab drivers through this app. We're just like Grab, but for maids and technicians, right? So this was how we initially kicked off, and that's where we initially grew. But absolutely, the biggest challenge was it was all about getting your hands dirty, right? I till today say the same thing. I underestimated how operational intensive this business is, right? Because I still say we're not a tech company. We are a service tech company, right?
So I want to talk a little bit about money and Series B, Series C funding, and how you need to convince investors to put in money into your platform, because a lot of these platforms lose a lot of money in the first few years. A lot of young people, our audience out there, may not realize, but for the first X number of years, you're losing money. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I guess comes down to the strategy, comes down to what you are chasing and what's your exit goal, right? Again, when I started this, when I was at the age of 22, I perhaps didn't even know what unicorns were back then, or what Series B, C, D meant. All I knew was I wanted to build a company that was a long-lasting company and eventually impacted millions of people. That was my one vision, I would say, right? Was to create jobs, and exactly the vision still stands today. But when you talk about funding, absolutely, at that point of time, back to when you talk about challenges, when I overcame people as a challenge, when I overcame my initial traction, and obviously you need funds, right? At that point of time, I refused to take any funds from my family. And I had very little savings from the days I was in college. I was selling secondhand cars. I made some money. I kept that aside. And I invested all of this in here. But yes, the question comes now. I was at that point where I knew I had very little funds left. And, the business needed to invest in technology. How do I grow? At that point was the first time I realized that, you need funds and you need to go raise and you need
big money, right?
You need big money, absolutely. So I learned it the hard way, and I learned it quite late, but I was again very fortunate to meet the right people, meet the right mentors and advisors who caught my hand, who guided me, and said to focus on the one thing that you want to actually achieve, grow the business in the right way. So all that formulated and came around to actually pushing and learning the hard way, eventually knowing that how you need to sell your story, how you need to sell your vision, how you need to sell the caliber, the passion of the people driving it. Because in the early days, investors are not investing in the idea. They're investing in the drivers behind the idea. The people. Absolutely. It's all about the execution. We have always heard this. Yeah. But again, right, we all three fresh graduates with a crazy idea to transform a $3.3 billion industry. Why would they invest in us? So it was just sheer, going out there, sharing our stories, sharing our passion, going on different stages, platforms, meeting the right people, connecting with other mentors. We eventually landed our first angel investment the year after, in 2016, ending with a few high-profile, renowned angel investors that then secured the trust in our platform. And eventually from there on, we just kept growing.
Right. So I know that you attend the tech sources, and I've actually seen you at a couple of the events out there that you present yourself and you present your product and you look for money. And a lot of our audience don't fully understand. So is the platform a B2B or a B2C?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, when you talk about funding again, and I guess initially when we opened up as a B2C platform. We opened up as a marketplace and obviously pivoted so many times until where we are today, right? We failed so tremendously. We burnt a lot of money as well. And today, when we ask ourselves what our journey moving forward is, I guess it's based on a lot of these pivots and failures. 2 years ago, we made this tough choice and a bet on shifting ourselves into B2B. Right, we were growing quite well on B2Cs, but it was a game where you needed a deep pocket. And again, coming back to the fundraising topic you just mentioned, I believe I'm not one of those founders that were made to go out there and just keep fundraising, because my passion is still building the product, building the company, and putting my head down. Right, so I realized this on my third year that, just being that one CEO who's out there completely fundraising every year, I wasn't made for that kind of business. As my first venture, we made that tough choice saying we need our unit economics, our numbers, our business model to be sound where we can build a long-lasting business. We shifted to B2B. We realized our lifetime value of customers in the retail, the businesses, the SMEs was tremendously, almost 5 or 6x better than the B2Cs. Right. That bet paid off. Actually, in fact, just a few days ago on 6th January was our 50th anniversary, and we broke even after 5 years.
There you go. Congratulations, Sahib. Breaking even after 5 years.
Thank you. So I guess this was one of the milestones where I believe we have come from 0 to 1. We have broke even, and the mindset of still building that long-lasting business with the right financials and business model is where we want to is what we want to pursue moving forward.
So Sahib, a lot of the young people out there who don't have jobs, who've just graduated, they're looking at you and maybe thinking that it's something they might want to do. They might have a software degree or a computer science degree. What advice can you give young people in terms of starting a startup and the passions and the pitfalls?
Fantastic. I will share this from my experience, and there are 3 P's that I always believe in, and what I've learned over the journey as well. I guess the first thing is exactly the keyword you mentioned is passion, right? The passion and should always resonate with your why. Don't do this startup. Don't build a company just to be part of the media, the buzz, or be that cool kid where you've built and exited, or perhaps running a current startup. It's okay to run an SME that's highly profitable, right? It's definitely okay. You don't need to be a techie to build a successful business. That's number one. Now it comes back to your why. Why do you want to do what you're doing? And the best thing I can advise is whatever you do, make sure you're solving a real life problem, because people will always pay. Always ask yourself first in the everyday life of the journey that you live, or the life that you live on an everyday basis. What's one thing that you have experienced as a pain, and does that pain resonate with the next person next to you, 100th person, the 1,000th, or not?
It's like the lack of the service. So, for example, I can't fix my air condition. It's bloody hot, and I need this technician. Is that what you're trying to say?
Absolutely. I guess it's apart from that, there are technicians. I'm sure you have, in your contact list, you have a few chunks, technician numbers you've used over the years. Yeah, but sometimes it's not just about the first touch point. It's about, my question to you would be, if you call this guy when you actually needed him, what would his availability be? Will he be there the time you want him to be? What would the price that you would be paying him? Is it standard pricing? So sometimes, a lot of businesses have come around from problems that have come from an existing life problem as well. So what that means is you don't sometimes have to reinvent the wheel. Be part of it, but just do it better. right? Just do it better, add value. Make sure that you're actually listening to your consumers. Do a lot of feedback on ground. Because even when you talk about funding, it's not the investors' money that's going to get you to the long run. The real funding comes from the customers. When these people pay for your products and services, they will keep paying for it because you're building a right product that solves their problem.
There's a value proposition
Absolutely.
On the table.
I guess the second P for me is people, right? Obviously, we can't do this alone. But I guess in the early days, it's always about surrounding yourself with the right people. When you start off, you come with no experience. There are people out there that have done this, been there, done that. They have gone through all the roughs and toughs. They have gone through all the failures. Surround yourself with these like-minded people who can guide you, teach you, and connect you with other people, because I believe this is a secret sauce of eventually building your network, right? And when you meet people with the right timing, this is where new opportunities are created. So I guess this is what the second most important P for me, people, because even when you build that business, you will have to manage your own people, right? And that people skills is perhaps one of the most important skills you will ever develop, not just for your professional life, but even your personal life. And I guess the last and the most dearest to me is perseverance, right? Never stop trying. I guess you fail when you stop trying. And I guess always celebrate, be humble of your success, celebrate those small milestones for sure. Don't forget to pat yourself at the back and look back of what you have achieved, but always be humble and never stop trying, because along the journey, you're going to go through a lot of pitfalls, a lot of failures that you sometimes may not have people out there to help you get up. Just remember, you got to push yourself and go that extra mile. One day at a time. Within X days, you'll realize that you're far, far ahead of what you ever imagined.
Sahib, for the techies out there, do you plan post-COVID to maybe run a few clinics and talk at symposiums and seminars about the pitfalls and the way forward, and just basically maybe helping our community grow from the old brick and stone businesses and help them maybe transform in the direction you took?
I'm very happy to do that. I guess this is definitely one of the reasons why I took up the opportunity when you presented this to me. What you're doing here with WTF is exactly what the community needs. I guess this is where we people, and again, I don't consider myself a successful entrepreneur. I'm just here to share my journey, my experience. I'm happy to do this to perhaps be that little and small influence for people to think outside the box, or even beyond of their current limitations. And to answer your question, yes, I would be very happy. And I do have a few seminars lined up, just like this one that I've taken up.
So WTF Show is so I'm going to talk about three things quickly. One is you will be invited at the end of 2021 to the WTF Youth of the Year Awards. So you will be welcome to nominate and vote for Youth of the Year 2021. So I will welcome you to the award show. Number two is you are also welcome to invite a guest to the show for next month. So if you could send me that list at some point. And finally, I want to talk about the WTF moment. The moment that you realized that what you've been doing and what you're doing now, that one point in time in your life where you said, look, what I'm doing is wrong. And you took that step and you said, look, I'm going to go towards this startup. I'm going to face all these problems, but no, I'm not going to look back. What was your WTF moment?
Okay, when you asked me my WTF moments, I probably had a lot of it actually during this whole journey, or even perhaps before that. But I guess that one moment that made me step or enter into this whole, journey is that one moment where I realized that as we as skilled people in the white collar industry, we have come out with the best education. We have such opportunities. We are very blessed with the family background we've grown up with. When we look at our, people on the other side, where we get a lot of help, the domestic helpers as such, the blue collars, the pink collars, these people aren't given that kind of opportunities. With the fast-paced world and technology and innovation that we're going ahead with, I believe there's going to be so much more innovation that these people, these blue collars, will not be able to catch up with. So the question is, how do we bridge that gap, right? And that one moment came to me when I was actually, in my hotel, and the aircon broke down, and this technician came in, and he just charged me double the amount because he knew there was a customer checking in. I asked him, I said, "Hey, P, I know that this is for about 5 to 700 baht, let's say, for an example. Why are you charging me double or triple just because of what?" He said, he became very frank with me. He said, "This is how we earn, this is how we live. This is the only way we have learned how to do business." Right? And that kind of triggered me, saying that, today there's tools, platforms, and the world's going to go at so far. How do we solve problems for a gentleman like him and the entire industry? Because it's so fragmented. These people are good at what they do, but perhaps they lack the skills to market or sell their services. How do we actually create that opportunity and make sure that they are not left behind? So my vision is still today, empowering 1 million micro entrepreneurs. That moment for me was, I want to build something that impacts millions of people in Southeast Asia.
Thank you so much, Sahib Anandsongvit, for joining the show today. It is truly a pleasure, and frankly, I'm again the luckiest person in the world to be meeting techpreneurs and entrepreneurs and startup people like Sahib, who can teach us so much about empowering the blue collar, empowering the pink collar, and going through a journey that's really quite ambitious and hopefully very fruitful. Thank you, Sahib, for joining us in the show today. I hope you had a good time, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you very much, Vimol, for having me, and it was a pleasure being here and sharing my experience.
Okay, thank you, and see you guys on our show next week. Thank you very much from Rajan Kanijau and myself at the WTF Show. Goodbye.
That's it from the WTF Show. Vimol and the team from WTF Show would like to thank all our sponsors. Tune in next week for another great gig with people making a difference to your future. For advertising spots, go to the WTF Show IG page and get more info, or contact Vimol at 6681 616 5987.